Just do your thing here, bud. Nobody's any better at this than you are.
Have fun, take a deep breath.
Give him hell at the end. You like this?
Fight like hell like we do every week. You are the best here.
Brett, be affirmative.
You told me to get on.
Info. Ready. Ready. Go slow. Green, green, green. Lock it down, lock it down.
I'm destroyed, and I just got drove through like 6 times on the 14th. What the f*** is he thinking? That is the stupidest thing I've seen in my career. Literally.
Everything you described is accurate. Haven't even finished the second stage yet. Half the field's wrecked.
Hell yeah!
11 got it. Rowdy there, Matt. Good job, pal. Thanks, man. Good job all day. Great work, my man. Great work.
Keep putting yourself in position, we'll win our share, right? We got one back today, brother. Good job.
10-4, great job, guys.
All right, let's try this again. Welcome to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark, and I'm on vacation, so I'm doing this from my laptop. Let me know in the chat if you are getting this, if it looks okay, if it, all the things. Either way, I'm going to try to do this. I'm also trying to record, so if it doesn't work live streaming, I'll just post the video afterwards. So hit me up in the chat, hit that like and subscribe button. Sorry for the wonkiness, but trying out this laptop. I used it once before at Martinsville when I went to the Martinsville race. And in 2 weeks, I'll be going up to Cooperstown with my son for baseball. So we'll have to do this setup again, hopefully up there. Maybe I'll have decent connection. But if somebody hit me up in the chat and let me know if the sound is working. Let me see. Can I even see that? Yeah, okay. It does appear to be working on my end. But either way, last year was the infamous loud and clear. Okay, great. I appreciate that, Lost Prophet. Last year was the infamous, let's put a little piece of tape underneath our paint. Not really paint, but the decal on the car. And did that actually help Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch get to first and second? I don't know. They're both really good here. But either way, they got disqualified, which kind of throws all the stats kind of into whack. Yes, let's secure the bag. Matt, everything sounds good. Great, wonderful, awesome. Everything looks good. Have fun? I think he meant have fun. Yeah, we are having a blast. We've gone to the beach the last 2 days. We've been fishing from the beach. We've caught some croakers. So nothing big catching wise, but hopefully we can catch a win today with Draftkings and help pay for this great vacation. So either way, it doesn't matter. We enjoy the racing. We enjoy doing the videos. So glad you could join me. And like I said, last year was the infamous Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch getting suspended race. All right. Before we head to Pocono, let's take a look back at New Hampshire for the Cryon 301. Where I did okay. I think when I was chatting with Matt, he ended up having a pretty good week, but I'll let him chime in if he did or not. But I think, if I remember correctly, he had a pretty good day. Martin Truex Jr. was just absolutely lights out dominating, and had a kind of feeling from that. He does extremely well on Monday rain delay races anyways, especially at tracks that he runs fairly well at. But 254 of the 301 laps led by Martin Truex Jr. The 149.1 was the most points we have seen in this next-gen era car. Nobody has come close to that kind of a DraftKings points total. It's just absolute domination by Martin Truex Jr. The last time it happened was Kyle Larson did it. That got that high or higher was he got it 4 or 5 times the year he won the championship in 2021. Good job. I won my cash game despite Bell and Custer sucking it up. No clue how. Hey, I mean, that's all it takes. Yeah, Matt, you did. I remember you now telling me you had Truex at 73%, which is, God, that's scary. I mean, one bad pit stop, one loose wheel, one somebody else's mistake just can absolutely devastate your day. Or if nothing happens like happened to you, then you end up having a great day. Yeah, I mean, James, if you had Martin Truex Jr., you pretty much almost locked it in, especially in cash, as long as you had a couple other guys that did fairly well that were on this list. But yeah, Martin Truex Jr., 149 points. Like I said, the most we've seen in this next-gen era car. The only other person close to it, nobody in the last year and a half. So, but other guys that did pretty well, Kyle Larson at 61.7, Denny Hamlin at 54.5. I mean, I missed the Tyler Reddick. I didn't think he was going to doing as well as he did. He usually doesn't do as good on short tracks or flat tracks. So, I mean, maybe that's an indication of what might happen today. Maybe they were kind of trying to prove. And I missed the Bubba Wallace kind of hanging his own and staying right there all day. He had an up and down day, but either way, our optimal lineup challenge. Kyle Busch at 7 in first, William Byron, Kyle Larson hunting him down in second with 6 optimal lineups each, and then a whole host of drivers with 5. So we definitely still have a battle here at the top for the optimal lineup challenge after 20 races. All right, let's see in the chat, James. Yeah, it wasn't even a need of a Martin Truex Jr. It was you must have Martin Truex Jr. If you didn't have him, I was looking through. If you didn't have him in your lineup, I think in a few of the tournaments you got in, but you had to have everybody else perfect. Matt says Custer was a great play. Variance got him, a good call on speed. Yeah, Custer had a good day last week. I expect Cole Custer might end up having a decent day today, and that's all we need from him. I think he's starting 31st or 33rd, but we'll get to him here in just 1 second. So that wraps up New Hampshire. I definitely missed the Austin Dillon play and the Chase Briscoe play, but I had a feeling Martin Truex Jr. was going to be really, really good, especially on the rain delay. All right, so we are headed to Pocono, Pennsylvania. This is such an unusual track. In some of the most beautiful country in our country, but it's a long, flat track. It's 2.5 miles in length. I get my video work here. There's 3 turns, and they're all 3 distinctively very different turns with different banking. 14 degrees, 8 degrees, and 6 degrees of banking. I mean, literally at 6 degrees of banking is literally almost no banking. And that one is turn 3 down here coming to the start-finish line, which is turn 3/4, which is actually all 3 of these were designed after other tracks. I know the turn 3/turn 4 is designed after turn 4 at Indianapolis. I can't remember what the other 2 were designed after, but they all have distinct design features from other tracks that were all combined into making this one track. And looking at this road course actually looks really kind of cool. I don't know why maybe one of these times they go run a road course up there. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to do that. But today's race length is 160 laps. Dominator points, they play a role, but they play about as much of a role as a super speedway, because we're going to see huge variations in speed throughout the race depending on when they pit strategies, and things of that nature. It helps to be out front, but you can get huge drafting runs on guys, which can really kind of skew your lap times compared to the leader or even the guy in front of you. If you're getting that long draft down one of these long straightaways, it can really help out your time. So we're going to have a lot of variations in dominators because of the fast laps will get kind of shared around amongst a lot of different drivers. So this is going to be a lot similar to a super speedway. You don't necessarily have the opportunity as much for the big one other than on restarts, which, I mean, we'll have 3 starts or 3 restarts, one to start the race, one after the first stage, and one after the second stage. And typically, because this track is so kind of the tricky triangle, we may probably end up seeing 2 or 3 more restarts also, which really bunches that field up. And it's kind of like last week at New Hampshire, you have the opportunity where you're so close together on such a flat track that you're looking for that braking zone going into turn 1. You got guys that are pushing, and with track wear being somewhat of an issue now, and tires falling off, if you kind of hold off and you spin those tires coming to the start-finish line and the guy 3 spots behind doesn't realize that or get the spotter call from it, you end up having a pileup. I mean, we saw it in the truck race, we've saw it at the Xfinity race, and I suspect we may see it in this race also. Milwaukee Mile, is that turn 1? Is that shaped after? Is that the one for Milwaukee Mile? I can't remember, but I know it's 3 different tracks, and I know Indy was the turn 3/turn 4. Kyle Busch might get to 8 after today. Hard to see him not being optimal. Him and Elliott. Yeah, I mean, Chase Elliott is going to be just massively owned today. Spun in qualifying, starting 35th. His practice speeds were really good. And he's pretty much at a point where he either has to have an incredible points day or he needs to win. And by points day, I mean, he needs to finish first or second in both the stages. And then if he doesn't get the win, he needs to finish second, third, or fourth. And that's going to be pretty much every race from here on till Daytona. And, I mean, he's going to have some shots at the Indy road course. He's going to have a shot at Watkins Glen. Those all happen prior to the end of the regular season. So, but track comparisons, we haven't raced at the Indy Super Speedway in so long that one doesn't kind of get played into this, but we definitely look at Nashville, Pocono, which we're going to definitely use, Gateway, kind of a flat, long straightaways, and of course New Hampshire, the long, flat straightaways too. So those are kind of the tracks that we compare this to, but there's really nothing that compares to Pocono other than the Indy, not road course, but the Indy regular course. Is the only thing that's flat, long straightaways, little to no banking, but we haven't raced there, at least in the next-gen era. So, North Wilkesboro is the other turn, I believe. Okay, I'll take your word for it. I just remember hearing something about it, and I need to just remember to make sure that I write that down. But either way, let's get to the real reason we're here. Let's talk about these drivers, where they practiced, where they qualified, and some of their past stats and history at this track. Martin Truex Jr., 10,700, top of the board. He's also our points leader. And coming off of that win last week, you want to talk about momentum. Martin Truex Jr. has definitely got some momentum behind him right now. And starting second, his practice speeds were good at 5th on single lap speed, 13 laps total in practice, and he was second on, and it's not 10 lap average. I made a mistake. It's 5 lap average because there were only, I think, 9 guys that did 10 laps. Truex is a tough call. Yeah, Truex is a very tough call because, as we can see, I mean, he does have 2 wins here, but what have you done for me recently? And in the last 5 races, which is the 2 races from 2000, which were wonky because of COVID. Then we had back-to-back in 2021 because of COVID. They were both slightly shortened races. And then last year's 2020, which was the regular 160-lap race, Martin Truex Jr. does not have a top 5, but 3 top 10, so he ran well. I mean, he didn't run as well as his Gibbs teammates last year because he ended up finishing 9th. And I mean, honestly, that ended up, I think, being 7th. That's why it gets really wonky because there's some stats that still keep. Like, I still look at where Denny Hamlin actually finished and not where he got regulated to, because Draftkings kept his points and paid him out like he finished in first, which there could be a real discussion on whether they should be doing that or not. I think if you cheat, you cheat. And did Denny Hamlin cheat? Yeah, NASCAR says he did. And so did Kyle Busch. But Draftkings ended up paying that out before that ruling came down and before the win was taken away. I can't remember if that ended up. I think that ended up hurting me last year. That I would have done better not having them finish first and second, but I can't remember. There's been a lot of racing in between then and there. But what a controversy either way. But Martin Truex Jr., I mean, he runs fairly well here. He's got a 14.8 average finish with 33 starts. And he's finishing consistently in the top 20, but starting on that front row, we're not racing on Monday, and it's not a rain delay. I still think Martin Truex Jr. ends up with a decent day. The problem is starting second with this kind of lineup where we're looking for super speedways. It makes it a little bit more difficult to take Martin Truex Jr. I've got him 6th on the power ranking, and I have 10 to 15% ownership on Martin Truex Jr. So I'm sure that most of the guys here have heard this before, but if you are new to the channel, pretty much this whole breakdown here is, of course, the driver, the dollar amount from DraftKings, their starting position. This is their practice. So he was 5th in single lap, 13 total laps of practice, and he was 2nd in a 5-lap consecutive average. Down here are the last 5 races, which are listed up here, and the stats that he had done in those 5 races, and finished 9th last year at this race. And then his total breakdown is over here. Then I have this power ranking up in the top right, which is 6. This takes into account the last 5 races here at Pocono, and then the last 10 races at similar style tracks. And then the trend, which is the last 10 races that they have run. And then practice and qualifying all kind of gets thrown in, including their starting spot. And I get a power ranking or an algorithmic ranking that I rank him. And I've got Martin Truex Jr. as a 6. I don't have an ownership of him and of that because of his pricing. But if it were just straight up and everybody were equal pricing, Martin Truex Jr., in my opinion, would be 6th on that board. Hopefully that makes sense. But we'll kind of skim through the rest of these now that I broke that down. I forgot to do that at the beginning. Sorry about that. Vacation brain will do that to you. Denny Hamlin, next in line here at a $10,600. It's only $100 cheaper. Starting 8th. So we've got a small amount of place differential upside, or PD upside as we call it. Denny Hamlin in practice was pretty good. He was 7th in single lap, 16 total laps of practice, which is one of the higher practice lap totals. And he was 10th in 5-lap consecutive average. And if we look at what he's done at Pocono lately and what he has done at Pocono his entire career, in the last 5 races at Pocono, he's got 2 wins, 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 5 top 20s. So 4 times he's finished in the top 5. He's got an average finish of 4.4. Now remember, this also includes still giving him the win from last year. And a 56.3 DraftKings average. And he finished first or not finished first at the race here last year. Like I said, I'm going off because I'm looking at what DraftKings considers the win, and he got first here for that win. So I know it's wonky, and I know you could argue it both ways, but if DraftKings is going to pay it off in first, I'm going to put it in my stats as first because that's what I'm kind of betting on. But 33 total starts, 7 wins and almost half the time he's finishing in the top 5. Well more than 2/3 he's finishing, or right at 2/3 he's finishing in the top 10. So starting 8th, I mean, unless he's got an issue on pit road or he gets messed up with somebody else, Denny Hamlin's kind of a lock. It's kind of a cash lock. So who is it here that plays cash a ton? Somebody was talking about their cash lineups. But either way, yeah. I think Denny Hamlin's but I mean, he's also going to be probably very heavily owned in cash because he is just that good. And probably the next best driver at this track is Kyle Busch, 10,500, starting 25th. Whoops. Yeah, he messed up his qualifying lap, which could potentially be a huge benefit to us. So I think right behind Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch might be one of the more higher-owned drivers starting 25th. Second in single lap, did not do a 5-lap consecutive average. Maybe he should have. Maybe he wouldn't have messed his qualifying lap, but I'll take the 25th starting spot. He does have 1 win in the last 5 races here with 4 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s, a 9.6 average finish. He finished second in this race last year, kind of, sort of. We already discussed that. 35 total starts with 4 wins, 12 top 5s, 19 top 10s, and 23 top 20s. So not quite as good as Denny Hamlin, but pretty darn solid, especially coming from 25th. I expect Kyle Busch to probably be pretty heavily owned, so take that into account. Kyle Larson, 10,300. Only 3 starts in the last 5 races because he missed the 2020 race because of his suspension. But Kyle Larson does have 1 top 5, 3 top 10s, 3 top 20s, and he probably should have had the win other than the first race of the 2021 race where he blew a tire going into turn 3, allowing Alex Bowman to get around him for the win. But he had pretty much dominated that race. And if you take that into account and you put him into first, it takes his average finish, I think, up to like 2.3. So he is right there with Denny Hamlin, if not slightly better. But he has never won at this race. 15 total starts with 4 top 5s and 10 top 20s. Starting 3rd. He was fast in practice and 4th on single lap and did not do a 5-lap consecutive average. I mean, it's kind of like Martin Truex Jr. It's a little bit scarier, but Kyle Larson is hungry for a win at this track. And his crew chief is really good with calling really good strategy races. There are a couple other drivers in the field that do really, really well with strategy. Qualifying order means less this week because the A group and B group was sunny, cloudy. Yes, speeds were really impacted by cloud cover. They were. The same thing with practice speeds. Practice speeds really kind of were all over the place. But yeah, I mean, with Kyle Busch qualifying poorly because I can't remember if he was in the sun. I just watched it while I was finishing up this, getting this presentation ready, or lack thereof. Yeah, very true, Paul. I mean, either way, I'll take a Kyle Busch starting 25th. Whatever the conditions or whatever the issue, it's kind of like Chase Elliott spinning out. Hey, that sucks for Chase, but that's probably I mean, it's good and bad for DraftKings because everybody's going to be on him. So, you know, if you're putting lineups together, and I put 40 different lineups together, and this is where this percentage comes in, is I do 40 different lineups, and I put everything together, and I kind of see where everything falls. And I've got between 40 and 45% ownership in both Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch. And very close to that with Kyle Larson. So those are my high-end spins for it. But I don't... You can run, and that's the great thing about running really like max 3, max 1 tournaments is literally put your best one out there. But you're going to see even higher ownerships with with these guys in those tournaments, other than kind of the bigger field tournaments. And then especially in cash. I think Denny Hamlin's still one of the better plays in cash. I think Kyle Larson's not a bad play. Kyle Busch is not a bad play, but I think Denny Hamlin's a really good play in cash. And I almost think you almost have to have Chase Elliott. But it's cash play is going to be tough this week, actually, in my honest opinion, because it plays a lot like a super speedway with the lack of pure dominator points. But next in line here, William Byron, 10,200, starting from the pole. Also remember, starting from the pole gets you the number 1 pit stall. Also remember, William Byron and his team are the absolute fastest on pit road. And if you give them the number 1 pit stall, and everybody pits on the same cycle, if cautions fall that way, William Byron is going to be somebody who could easily start up front, stay up front the entire day. He's probably not going to be very heavily owned because of all the things we've already talked about. And I don't have a whole lot of ownership, but I have not faded him off like I would somebody else starting from the pole. He was also pretty good in practice. He was 3rd in single lap. He did 16 total laps of practice, which is almost the entire time. And he was 1st in 5-lap consecutive average. Now, he's never won here, but he's pretty consistent. I mean, he's finished in the top 20 all 9 times. He's finished in the top 10 over half of the time. And he does have 2 top 5s in his 9 total starts. And recently, he's got a 10th place average finish. Okay, not bad. Not great, but this has been a William Byron type of year. And this track kind of lays out pretty well for William Byron. Now, there's going to be a lot of comers and goers, and it's going to be that way all day. Tire wear, drafting. If you slip into a corner, you're going to get passed by 15 guys. You're going to fight your way back. If anybody happened to watch the Xfinity race yesterday, I mean, we saw Josh Berry all the way to the end. Come and go and come and go and come and go. It was just a yo-yo of a type of race. James says Hamlin, Elliott, Busch, Gilliland, probably. Yeah, I mean those are going to be 5 very, very heavily owned drivers. Gilliland is going to be heavily owned because he's starting 36, shotgun in the field, and he's super, super cheap, and he's been running pretty well lately. So running a Gilliland really gives you and lets you afford the ability to run a Hamlin, Elliott, Busch lineup, all top 3. With Gillen, and then you can run, some of these middle of the pack guys that we're going to get to in here in just a few minutes. But yeah, I mean, I think Gillen, Preece maybe 34th. Yeah, Preece is another one that, I mean, there will be attrition to this race either through mechanical or through accidents, and it does not take a whole lot to. You get this car slightly messed up, and we're going to talk about somebody who messed their car up a little bit, and what it may do or not do. But the way these corners and it being as flat as it is, when you send it off into these corners and you don't quite get it to stick, and you come off the corner, the way the car reacts and hits the wall really messes the back end aerodynamics up and really has a potential for breaking a tie rod. You break a tie rod here, you're pretty much done, even with the 6 minutes on the clock, just because it takes so long to get back around to your pit crew that, I mean, it's almost 2 minutes. So if you don't get it right the first time, you're done. You break a tie rod here, I think it's over. So there is that very good possibility. And there's somebody who's real lucky in qualifying yesterday that they didn't break their tie rod. All right, Ross Chastain here, $10,000. Ooh, buddy. Ross Chastain, those stats are not fully right. He does not have 2 top 5 years and 7 starts. Ross Chastain starting 21st. His practice speeds were about abysmal for a Ross Chastain. 26th in single lap, 23rd in 5-lap consecutive average. What do you do with Ross here? if you're going to take Ross, you need to say a prayer, because Ross is god awful here. I don't know what it is about this track in Ross Chastain, but it's oil and water. It is horrendous, because the stats on the bottom right for total stats here, I don't think he's ever finished in the top 20. So I think I just messed that up. In fact, I can just double check that real quick. While I'm looking, actually, I don't have it pulled up, so I'm just going to keep going. I just know that he does not have, because he doesn't. He in the last 3 starts, he doesn't have a top 20. And I remember looking at it going, God, he's never finished in the top 20 ever at this track. It doesn't have it in the last 5 races. He doesn't ever have a top 20 as far as I can remember. In fact, I'll just pull that up real quick just to make sure. But I am 99% sure that I remember seeing that. Let's see. Cup. Remember, I'm running on my laptop, so everything's a little bit different, even though most of it's saved on the cloud. It just takes longer. Cup races since 2021. Pocono. I know you guys can't see this. I have it on my other screen. Ross Chastain, yeah, does not have a top 20. It's just that bad. Yeah, Chastain's awful here. Even starting 21st. I mean, sure. But, I mean, that's the other thing. Trackhouse, other than their win at Nashville, Trackhouse really has not been the Trackhouse it was last year. They've been good, but they have not been great like they were. They're from Nashville. I think they circled that and just put their absolute A game behind winning Nashville. And then when you... Oh, hopefully this isn't a bad sign. Let me see. If I go out, I will try to reconnect, but I'm also putting this on recording, and if it does happen, then I'm just going to record the rest of it. But hopefully I don't lose you guys. It is a little wonky here, even though I should have extremely good internet, but I don't. Ross Chastain, like I was saying, let me make sure I've got this running as backup. I do have my phone as a backup. It's remarkable. Does that lower your ownership in Suarez too? Yeah, a little bit. I don't have as much Suarez. I mean, and I was hoping to see a little bit more out of Suarez yesterday to help me kind of get a little bit behind Suarez. I can't remember exactly the percentage, but I think it might be a tick more than Ross, because Suarez does run a little bit better here. Just something about this track and Ross Chastain are just oil and water. It just does not mix. I mean, starting 21st, we've got some place differential, so if we get some attrition up front and Ross happens to miss it, then I haven't completely faded him out. But either way, I don't like the Ross play. I mean, there are a couple more drivers here also that are almost as bad as Ross, but Ross is one of the worst. I mean, a 30th place average finish for 7 races for somebody of Ross Chastain, that's pretty bad. And maybe somebody else could look, because it takes me a little bit to figure out. Did Ross win a truck race here? I think he may have won a truck race here, if I remember that. Let's see, James Ward, remarkable that. Thank you for that. Okay, I thought you were saying Ty, like Ty Gibbs or Ty Dillon, but you were saying thank you for that. Yep, gotcha. Next in line here, Ryan Blaney, 9,800, starting 14th. He was 11th in single lap, 8th in 10-lap or 5-lap consecutive average. He did finish 35th in this race last year. I did not go back and watch the replay on it. I tried to normally, but vacation got in the way. Spending time at the beach was a little more important. Sorry, but priorities. But Ryan Blaney does have a win here in 13 total starts. I mean, he's kind of I'm going to finish 10th, 11th, 12th. Occasionally, I'm gonna go and run really well. I think this is kind of a call where I think there is some room, but the Fords don't seem to quite be as fast as the Chevys and Toyotas this weekend. Every time I say that, the Fords go out and just absolutely dominate. But I don't know if that's the call this weekend. I don't think the Fords quite have what the Chevys and Toyotas have. And I think the Toyotas might have a little bit more than the Chevys, but it's real close. It's more the Hendrick versus Toyota. It's kind of the play today. He did win a truck race here. So I guess you got to stick Ross in a truck for him to do well at Pocono. And that could have, I can't remember the replay on it, but that could have easily been a attrition race. It could have been a pit strategy where he decided to pit early and everybody else pitted later, or something weird probably happened. He also drove through the field last year, spun out. He had sped, just didn't finish. Talking about Chastain. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Blaney's a sneaky pick because I don't know how many people are going to be on him. I think the way this fell, I'm not sure why I've got 35%, but I do. He's probably one of the faster Fords here, other than the RFK guys. I do like the RFK. So I do like the 6 and the 17 today. But I think Ryan Blaney could be a sneaky pick. I think some people just might jump on Ross just because it's Ross. But I don't, even with him driving through the field, I don't know if I like Ross. I like Ryan starting in 14th. And we've talked a ton about Chase Elliott. Spun in his qualifying lap, but was 8th in single lap, 6th in 5-lap consecutive average. He finished 3rd in this race last year. He's got to be there at the end of this race. He's got to potentially challenge for a win. He's also going to need to try to get stage points. So they're going to probably throw some things out there that are going to potentially hurt. I don't know how Chase Elliott ends up running this thing. To be perfectly honest, I think Chase Elliott ends up doing well, because starting in the back ends up costing him because something massive happens in front of him, and then the track's blocked and he has nowhere to go. But Chase Elliott is good enough to get into a top 10 type of position. And the problem is, I would bet almost anything he's going to be at least 50% owned. I think on the low end is going to be 45%, and on the high end he could be 60% owned. It sounds a little ridiculous, but it's just that easy of a plug and play. And it's one of those, if you don't end up having him, it probably, because such of a large amount of the field's going to have him, if you don't, it's going to be like a Martin Truex Jr. last week. If you didn't have Martin Truex Jr. last year or last week, you weren't going to cash. And I think the same thing kind of happens with Chase Elliott, unless something happens to him. But then you could be part of the 30% that doesn't have him. I don't know. It's been a weird play on, do you take somebody who is just a plug and play type of run, like a Chase Elliott? Chase Elliott, I think, is more of a plug and play than a Gilliland, but Gilliland is so cheap, starting shotgun in the field, having decent practice speeds, that you kind of have to have him too. It's wonky. There's gonna be a lot of very similar lineups today, and yeah, if you're playing things like I do with 40 different lineups, you take 10 of them, and you don't put. Well, you take probably 12 of them. Just an example. You take 12 of them. You take 6. Or you take all 12 of those, and you don't run a Chase Elliott or a Gillen, just because they are going to be the absolute play. And the other 12, you run your lineups and just intentionally leave those guys out. Probably 1 or 2 of those, you run it to where you absolutely think the top 10 is going to stay the top 10. And you find 1 or 2 guys that are going to be place differentials, and you kind of play it that way too, because it can happen. It hasn't in a long time, but the contrarian play there would be to potentially do that. Christopher Bell really improved on his qualifying. because his practice speeds were not good. 24th in single lap, 28th in 5-lap consecutive average. In the last 5 races, he's got 1 top 10, 1 top 5, 2 top 10s, 3 top 20s, a 19.6 average finish. So not great for Christopher Bell. He did much better in the Xfinity series here, but starting 5th, I think he kind of qualified a little bit further up than I wanted him to this week. And I think they're just kind of out there, just kind of cruising at this point. They're pretty much going to make the playoffs, so I think they're just kind of cruising at this point. I think today may be more of a test session for Christopher Bell. So starting 5th kind of has me a little bit worried. I think he's starting too far up. It's not like he's a huge top 10 finisher here. He's only got 2 out of 5, which is not bad. That's 40% of the time. But I need him to finish better than top 10. It's just a tough call, especially when you're talking about some of these other guys that have just got to do well. Tyler Reddick here at 9,200, starting 7th. He was 1st in single lap, 3rd in 5-lap consecutive average. He's got the win already. His stats here are okay. He's got a 17.8 out of the last 5 races, which are the only 5 races he's ever run here. Very similar to Christopher Bell. Kind of in the same spot, too. Other than he's driving a Toyota, which is going to probably help him a little, I think he's kind of in the same boat as Christopher Bell. He's locked in to the playoffs. It could be potentially kind of a test session because you've got a bunch of other things. James says Reddick. You like the Reddick play today. I mean, in my opinion, that might be pretty sneaky. Because people are going to be on a Chase Elliott. They're going to be on a Denny Hamlin. And when you start to spend that type of money, you kind of have to fade off of these other $9,000 or even high $8,000 guys. So Reddick probably, he'll have ownership. Don't get me wrong, but he's probably going to have ownership about where I have him, 10 to 15%. Which, we're looking for some of these guys that are going to be 20, 25%, or we're looking for the guys that are going to be 5%. That will be contrarian, and we can sneak in on a tournament win with that. Kevin Harvick here, next in line at $9,000, does have 1 win out of his 42 total starts. But out of that, over 50% of the time, he's finishing in the top 10 with 22 top 10s. He does have 1 win in 2020, I think it was, when he and Denny Hamlin each had a win. 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s. Let's see. If Reddick testing something, then heck no. Lafayette Hill just ultimate tournament play every week, it seems. I don't know if Reddick is just testing. So don't take that to the bank. But Bubba Wallace needs to get in, needs a win, needs good points days. Reddick is already in. This is a great track to test out some different things. I'm just speculating. Then Shark says NASCAR needs to get some kind of special concept where if you get special points for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd because you only have 12 or 13 cars to choose from every week. Are you talking about NASCAR or Draftkings? Needs to give some special concept where they get special points for 1st, 2nd, 3rd. Well, you get more points by finishing 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. It's not a ton, but there is a point structure to it. I think the special points really comes into the stage plays. So if you can finish a stage 1st, 2nd, in the top 10, then you get special points. And if you win a stage, you get a playoff point. So I think there's some special stuff there. I think that's what you're asking about, Shark. But let me know. Or if you're talking about DraftKings, I've always thought, DraftKings. Yes, I would agree with you. I would like to see DraftKings give a larger bump for first, second, and third. Um, is Bubba's car going to be okay? Well, that's what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about cars sliding up and hitting the wall and tie rods. I don't know. But yeah, Shark, I agree with you. I think I would like to see something in DraftKings. I wouldn't even mind seeing some points given for stage because that would really throw some wrinkles into how you build lineups. But I mean, we all of a sudden we do that, and I've got to go through and change a ton of spreadsheets to start looking at stage points. So I don't know if they ever will. But yeah, and I mean, Shark also 12 to 13 cars to choose from. Yeah, if you're not being contrarian, if you're trying to be contrarian, which in tournaments, it depends on whether you're playing cash or you're playing playing cash or you're playing tournaments. If you're playing tournaments, you got to find some contrarian plays. You got to find the sneaky pick. Whereas cash, yeah, you probably only have 12 or 13 cars to really choose from. And what you're hoping for is picking the best 12. But if you're playing tournaments, I mean, the whole field's wide open other than, I mean, typically 4, 5 guys. So you really have about 30 to choose from. You can eliminate some of those because they're starting too far up and those types of things. But I mean, realistically, you've got at least, I think kind of what I've seen is you've got 15 to 20 guys that, if put in the right order, can get you into winning money in tournaments. So that's just my opinion. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it would be kind of cool to see something pay out more for first, second, or third. But they don't, and we play within the parameters that they've given us. So this is what we do until they change it. But yeah, I agree with you. I wouldn't mind seeing that. But Kevin Harvick, it's Kevin Harvick. It's Mr. Consistent here. He was 13th in single lap, 12th in 5-lap consecutive average. He's starting 4th. His average finish is an 8.8 over the last 5, 11.8 out of 42 races. I mean, Kevin still doesn't have a win, but Kevin's got a ton of points, and as long as we don't get a whole bunch of weird winners, then I think Kevin's kind of okay to get into the playoffs. So I don't think he hasn't had to hit the emergency button yet. That and Richmond's coming up next week, and he ran really well at Richmond last year in that race. So I don't think Kevin's in a panic by any means. I think if he gets a top 5 finish, he's going to be super happy about it. At a $9,000, I think he probably might get overlooked a little bit. So Kevin could be a little bit of a sneaky pick, but it's also a little scary starting 4th. So everyone is in play in tournaments. I've seen, I mean, BJ McLeod has got, I think, 1 optimal lineup. JJ Yaley's got 2 optimal lineups this year. So, yeah, in tournaments, there's 44 different guys, or 40 potential different guys that can be in your lineups. But notoriously, a JJ Yaley, a BJ McLeod don't make it. Do you think there will be 16 winners this year again? No, I do not think there will be 16 winners. I think we'll have a repeat winner today. I think we'll have a repeat winner for Richmond. I think you probably see a new winner for Indy and Watkins Glen. I think Chase Elliott takes the win at Watkins Glen. And Daytona's, so we might get 3 more winners. Where are we at? 11 right now. So that would take us to 14. Well, the 13 winners with 6 races. One of those is Shane Van Gisbergen, who does not count towards the playoffs. So we got 12. I think we potentially see 3 more winners. So that takes us to 15. So that puts Kevin kind of maybe potentially on a hot seat. And Kevin could be one of those 3 winners. Chase Elliott's going to have to win to get in. I think Alex Bowman's out. I think Bubba Wallace is out. I think McDowell's best shot is going to be like an Indy road course or Daytona. Who Who else has not won? I'm trying to think right off the top of my head instead of looking it all up. But I think we'll get close to 16, but I think it'll be more 15, and I think there's going to be a real fun battle at the end at Daytona for that last spot. Oh, you think Shane's going to win the Indy Road Course, huh? I mean, he's going to be a heavy favorite, that's for sure. But there's another guy that races supercars with him in Australia that's also coming. I don't think he's as good in supercars as Shane, but he's really, really close. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up coming up. NASCAR's going to sneak Elliott a win. I mean, yeah, James, but it's a little conspiratorial, which I don't mind getting into. But yeah, I mean, how crazy would it be for the NASCAR's most popular driver not to make the playoffs? That would be crazy. Do you think Chase wins one of these last races? I think Chase's best shot is going to be Watkins Glen. Indy's too. It's almost as wild as a Daytona. Chase is okay at Richmond. I'm trying to think of what else we have left. Daytona. I think it's going to be Watkins Glen or maybe a Daytona because he's okay at super speedways. Shane will be rocking Daytona road course heel to toe that hard. Yeah. If they were racing the road course at Daytona, they're racing the Indy road course. But I mean, yeah, it's awesome to watch SVG run that heel to toe because he does it like nobody else in NASCAR. It'll be interesting. I can't remember the other guy that's coming from the supercars, but there's going to be two at the Indy road course. If SVG wins the Indy road course, he may just stay in America and just get signed and just run the 91. I know he's trying to win a championship over in Australia, but he wins another one and he walks in and wins the first two races he runs. Hendrick may end up kicking Kyle Larson out of his seat. I'm kidding. And putting him in. Now, they might kick Alex Bowman out because Alex is struggling. All right, let's get back to this. I got a beach to go to and a son who's looking at me going, come on, Dad, let's go to the beach. He's been a great kid. We've had a lot of fun. Just father and son this weekend, so it's been good. Joe Logano, 8,800, starting 6th, 23rd in single lap, 15th in 10-lap consecutive average. Ooh, you picked up your speed there in qualifying, Joey. Good for you. He's got one win here, 19.8 average finish, 18.9 over his career, 27 total starts with one win. Yeah, I don't like the Penske Fords today. So 6th, I think he's starting too far up. I mean, I've got a little bit of ownership on Joey, but not a ton. Will they make the 9 a winner here last year? The other heel-to-toe guy is Mr. Buttons. Okay. No, I don't think they're gonna. I mean, I don't think they're gonna do something conspiratorial like that and make a 9 a winner somewhere. I mean, if NASCAR were to do anything, it would be we're gonna allow 17 guys in, kind of like they did with Jeff Gordon in his final year or whatever it was. So I mean, maybe. I doubt it though. Joey Logano, I just don't. I think he slips a little. I think he might be a top 15, but I'm not sure he breaks the top 10. I don't like the Penske's today. I don't think they finished badly. I just don't. We need Joey Logano to finish in the top 5, and I just don't know if that's in the cards for Joey. He's not that great here. He's not bad, but he's just not great. And I need greatness if you're starting in 6. Bubba Wallace hit the wall in his last qualifying run in the second round and hit it pretty hard. I don't know. I have not heard or seen anything that says he's going to go to the back for unadjusted repairs. But that was a pretty significant hit. I know that they're going to make sure the car's top-notched and good to go. The other thing is I just don't know how well Bubba does with pressure. Anytime pressure gets put on Bubba, I mean, and he's actually even stated it before, when pressure, he just does not do super well under pressure. He tries to joke it off and play it off, but when Bubba's relaxed, Bubba's really good. When Bubba's not relaxed, it cracks the egg. I would love to see Bubba make the playoffs. I would love to see Bubba get a win. I think Bubba is actually good for the sport. I know that's very, very contrarian to say, but I do think Bubba's good for the sport. I don't particularly like Bubba Wallace as a person. That's different. But I think Bubba's really, really good for the sport. I'll leave it there. We don't need to go down that path. And Bubba's not a bad driver when Bubba just relaxes and just goes and runs races. When Bubba starts worrying about everything else and what everybody is saying, that's when Bubba doesn't do well. Right now, Bubba's under microphone, a microscope. Everybody's watching him. This is when Bubba does not typically do well. With that being said, Bubba's also surprised me before, and he was not awful here. In the total of 10, or the last 5, he's got 4 top 20s, 2 top 10s. The problem is you're starting in 10th. I need you to finish in the top 10. I don't need an 11th or 12th or 13th place finish out of Bubba today. Bubba's a little tricky. He's as tricky as a Kevin and a Joey. So, as you see, I've got him in 10 to 15% of my lineups. I'll be interested to see if Bubba's able to handle the pressure. And that's what I need to see from Bubba. Is I need him to start handling pressure better and not cracking under the pressure. Next in line, Brad Keselowski. Here's my sneaky pick. I think Brad may win this race, which would throw the playoffs into all sorts of craziness. So yeah, we talked about the road courses and the potential different winners at road courses and the Daytona. Brad may get a win here today, or have a pretty good finish. There are a couple other sneaky picks that potentially could get wins. One, I keep calling out every week. Every week, he kind of like Bubba Wallace. He cracks under pressure, always towards the end of the race. Ty Gibbs. But I think Brad could get a win here. He's really, really solid. I mean, out of his 25 total starts, he's got 11 top 5s and 15 top 10s. I mean, that's kind of Denny Hamlin-esque type of stats. He's only got 1 win, but he is consistently finishing up front. 9.8 average finish in the last 5 races. And remember, last year, he was god-awful in this car. He's much better this year. Finished 16th. I mean, that's still not great, but that's not bad. I mean, 9.8. Too much money for mid-tier teams to be allowing Chase to get a free win to get in. You think Rick Ware and these other mid-tier teams going to roll with possibly losing their livelihood for Chase? No. No, I mean, I think Rick Ware definitely sent a shot across the bow by going out and picking up Justin Haley this week. That move was bigger than a lot of people, I think, realize. And Family Man and I chatted about it a little bit this week because I was driving when that happened. 2 things happened. I think Justin Haley, number 1, is a decent driver. I also don't think he was going to have that ride. I think that's probably going to end up being a Chandler Smith or a Zane Smith or one of these young guns is going to end up getting that ride in the 31 car. So I think Justin was like, oh, my ride, I may not be in Cup next year if I don't do something. Well, Rick Ware started to hire people to build this team into something at least as good as Spire, if not better than Spire, because they want to stay. So this Justin Haley play, or what Rick Ware did and what Justin Haley did, I think were extremely smart. And it'll take a year or two, but they've started hiring some behind the scenes personnel, engineers and crew chiefs and guys that are running the show over Rick Ware. They're going to start to make some noise. Are they going to be a Hendrick? Are they going to be Gibbs? Are they going to be any of that? No. Could they start to compete with SHR if SHR isn't careful? Yeah. Shark says, new to your show and great content, my brother. Thank you. I appreciate that, Shark. Welcome to the chat and welcome to everything. I try to keep these things short, and then I end up going up on rants and tyrants and everything else about the rest of NASCAR. I probably should just have a midweek show where I just talk about all the drivers and everything that's happening, but that way we keep this a little shorter. Ty Gibbs, right there with Brad. You want to talk about guys that could really upset the apple cart when it comes to the playoffs. Brad and Ty are definitely right there. Ty Gibbs was really good in practice. He won at this track in Xfinity. I've said it every week. Ty Gibbs is the master at track. Am I back? Oh, maybe I'm here. I think I'm back. It says I'm back. Somebody give me oh, sweet, cool, I'm back. All right, well, I'm gonna try to wrap this up pretty quickly here because I never know how long this thing's gonna last. I'm on mobile connection and on my laptop. I mean, my laptop's new and it does really well, but let's see, James, I was kidding about NASCAR giving Chase a win. I just never thought I would see a year removed champion not make the playoffs. Yeah, and I mean, I could see after this year them putting a past champion's provisional in that if you're a past champion, you get an automatic spot in the playoffs as long as you have a championship won in the last 10 years. So I don't see it happening this year, but I could see them putting a provisional in for the following year, so that way Chase doesn't ever miss another playoff. But Ty Gibbs, I think, is absolutely. I'm not sure how far I got into to the Ty Gibbs thing before I got cut off, but I think Ty Gibbs could upset the apple cart and get a potential win or a potential top 5 today. And I think that's probably what Ty Gibbs is shooting for, is to get that first top 5. Alex Bowman, another one who's won here before, but he kind of sneakily won because he didn't really sneaky. He just stole one when Kyle Larson hit the wall coming into turn 3. But starting 20th, he was 10th in single lap, 7th and 5 lap consecutive average. I like Alex Bowman pick a lot today. Probably more. I probably should have more of them than I do. But this 7,500 to 8,500 is a tough little spot because there's a lot of guys that I like in this area. But I mean, he's pretty consistent. 11.4 average finish. I mean, 20.5 over 13. But I mean, he was still learning back then. I'm not going to hit that too hard. But 11.4. Oh no. If I die off, I die off. I'm sorry, guys. My computer's acting all wonky. But I like Alex Bowman today. Daniel Suarez, 18th in single lap, 11th in 5 lap consecutive average. If I'm still here, I don't know. I'm just going to keep rambling on until I finish this, and hopefully you're still with me. If not, I'm recording. I can always throw the back half up at some point, other than we go racing here in like 2.5 hours. Daniel Suarez, 7,700, starting 17th, 18th in single lap, 11th in 5 lap consecutive average. I think you finish where you start from Daniel Suarez today. I know I talked about Ross not doing great. I don't think Daniel I mean, he finished 5th in this race last year. Good pitch strategy, but other than that, I don't know. Chris Buescher, okay, good. I don't know, but I keep getting the wheel of death on my screen over on my YouTube screen, so I don't know if it says YouTube's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So I don't know. I'm gonna just continue and try to wrap this up because I've got a son that does now keep. I think I'm almost getting evil eyes at this point. $7,500 starting 18th. Chris Buescher, I mean, he's got to win here. Now, it was a rain-shortened or fog-shortened win. Starting 18th. I just think the RFK guys have something today. Out of all the Fords, if I'm picking some of these Fords, Kevin Harvick's okay, and the RFK guys are good. Other than that, I'm pretty much Ryan Blaney's not bad. I'm staying off of the Ford. So I think top Penske would be Blaney, top SHR, of course, would be Harvick, and then I think Buescher and Keselowski may end up having decent days. And I don't need Chris Buescher to go in. I need him to get a 7th place, 8th place finish. Starting 18th, that's all I need. AJ Allmendinger. I mean, talking about somebody who's on the bubble for the playoffs, and I mean, yes, he could win the Indy Road Course. He could, I mean, heck, AJ Allmendinger's been running well enough lately. He could go out and win this race. I don't think he does. His stats, there's nothing here. 23.8 over 22 total starts. He's never run very good here, but AJ has also been running much better at tracks that I never thought AJ would do well at. So I've got a little bit of ownership in AJ. Austin Dillon starting 23rd. Here's another one. Austin Dillon has never finished in the top 10 ever at Pocono. A 19.1 average finish. If I needed to pick somebody that's going to finish 14th, it's Austin Dillon, because that's about where he's going to finish. Now, 14th starting 23rd. I don't know if that's quite enough place differential for Austin Dillon, but if it gets sneaky and he does end up getting a top 10, which he's never done, then maybe. But this stat here, no top 10s ever for Austin Dillon at a 17 total starts. Like I said, he's consistent 15th, 16th, 17th. But good Lord. No top 10s. That's crazy. Eric Almirola, $7,000. I like Eric Almirola starting 27th. I don't think he's a big contender, but there's a decent amount of place differential here. And that's what I need from a guy like Eric Almirola, even though he was god-awful in practice. I'm looking as this is a pitch strategy / attrition style race for Eric. Starting 27th, decent amount of place differential. He's got 11th place average finish here. Over his 20 total races, he's got a 21.6, which isn't great, but the last 5, not bad. Even though he's driving the Ford, all I need Eric Almirola to do is come in and finish between his average finish and what he finished last year at this race. Finishes 13th, starting 27th. That's going to get you real close to optimal lineup. Chase Briscoe, same thing, other than starting 29th. I mean, he was about as slow. I mean, God, these SHR cars are just slow. 29th in single lap, 21st in 5-lap consecutive average. I mean, Eric Almirola was 31st. That was the slowest guys that ran the 5-lap consecutive average. Chase Briscoe, 20.7 average finish, only one top 20. But once again, I just need one of these two guys to finish in 15th. Eric Jones, 6,700. The haunting of the Legacy Motor Club not having manufacturer support, I think, may have reared its ugly head again with a 30th place single lap practice speed and 24th on 5-lap consecutive average. And he's got a 21st place average finish. He did finish 11th in this race last year. Coin flip, I think a Chase Briscoe or Eric Almirola actually are a better fit in this price range. Plus, you're getting a few more spots of place differential. Ryan Preece, Yeah, I mean, starting 34th, and he was faster than all of these guys in practice. I'll take the Ryan Preece for 6,600, starting 34th. And he's got a 19th place average finish. Yeah, I mean, Ryan Preece, all you got to do is get a top 20 for me here, bud. And we've got a good day. So at 6,600, I think, you go with a Chase Elliott, a Ryan Preece, and a Gillen, and now you can fit probably a Denny Hamlin, a Kyle Busch, and Kyle Larson, potentially all in the same lineup. I think we're too high with the Chase Elliott play in there too, but you get what I'm saying. You could probably run a Brad Keselowski. Justin Haley next in line here at 6,400 starting. Audio keeps cutting out. Yeah, I'm not sure if you've been here at the beginning. I am mobile. I am at my dad's. Wasn't trying to call you on your take, just not make sense to me when NASCAR doesn't have the ability to make Kerry or Jeff Earnhardt successful, then there's no conspiracy. Yeah, no, I don't think he was trying to call me out on the take. And if he was, that's fine. I'm very open to having debate and discussion about all the different things. But yeah, I mean, I think it would be really bad. I mean, NASCAR in general needs the Chase Elliott of the world. It brings viewerships. Viewerships brings corporate dollars. As much as I hate that, but that's how this sport gets played, plain and simple. So not having Chase Elliott in the playoffs hurts NASCAR. No way around it. It would be a big splash at the beginning. Oh my God, the NASCAR's most popular driver doesn't make it. Would definitely throw out the whole curveball of this sport is rigged, because it's not. But yeah, absolutely. No, I don't. I'm perfectly fine with you guys calling me out. Or if you think if you've got a different point and a different take, that's why the chat's here. That's why I like to have the chat. I love having the conversations because maybe it's something I haven't thought about. Even though I do spend a lot of time thinking about this sport, probably more than I should. You're all good, my man. My take wasn't meant to be goofy. I mean, if it was, that's cool. It throws a different thought process out there. Like I said, I'm all about it. Now, if I think somebody's going completely off the rails, I'll let you know that too. So be careful what you put out there. I'm probably going to call you out on it, but I'll try to do it nicely. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., $6,200 starting 22nd. Ricky's in the same boat as Austin Dillon. Never finished in the top 10. 11 top 20s, but no top 10s, no top 5s. Starting 22nd, that's not going to do it. So don't have a whole lot of interest in Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Couple lower priced locks for FanDuel. I have not looked at a FanDuel lineup in 4 years, 5 years, just to be honest. So I can't really help you out with FanDuel. I know they do some things a little bit differently. I know pricing's different. I know points are different. I can't tell you. NASCAR would love Bubba in there too. Oh, absolutely. You're crazy to think that NASCAR wouldn't love to have Bubba and Chase in their playoffs. They are huge corporate sponsored people, and that's what makes this sport go around. As much as I hate it, that's what makes this sport go around. The corporate dollar. And let me tell you, love the big pharma. My favorite. And it's on all the freaking race cars. That's for another show, and that's for another time. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. No top 10s ever. Starting 22nd. Let's see. I keep turning on my other mobile hotspot in case this one ever breaks down. Michael McDowell, $6,000, starting 15th. God, I wish Michael McDowell was starting 25th. I would have a lot more ownership. He finished 8th in this race last year. the little team that could is trying their best to make Michael McDowell a playoff driver. And I really hope Michael McDowell ends up doing well, because he's been one of my favorite drivers for a really long time, at least in DraftKings, because he won me a ton of money in the past. And has won, I mean, heck, I won the big Daytona $10,000 prize because of Michael McDowell when he won in 2020. So I've been a Michael McDowell fan for a long time. Starting 15th, though, I don't love it. I think you're going to finish where you start, is what I'm saying. He's going to have a decent points day. He might get some stage points here and there, and he ends up finishing between 8th and 15th. Is that okay? It's $6,000. Is that enough value? Maybe. True thoughts on Bubba today. I mean, yeah. I mean, I like Bubba Wallace. I hate that he gets the rap that he gets. Sometimes it's deserved. Most of the time it's not, though. Bubba's he's not a bad race car driver, but he is not the end-all, end-all. And he puts too much pressure on himself. When Bubba just gets out of that bubble and just goes racing, Bubba does much better. Bubba, just go be a race car driver. Don't worry about the rest of it. Do the rest of it when you retire. I get you. But just go drive a race car. Prove your point on the racetrack. Stay off of social media. Let us stupid talking heads people that talk on the internet do that for you. Austin Cindric, 5,900, starting 9th. Only raced here once in the Cup Series, finished 33rd. I don't like any of the Penske cars, so I don't need to go there. I don't have any ownership in Austin Cindric, especially starting that high up, especially when you didn't practice that well. Harrison Burton starting 26th. I think he's actually starting a little too far up for my liking, especially when you were 25th and 26th in 5-lap consecutive average. Finished 25th in this race last year in your only start. Yeah, no interest there. Corey LaJoie, another one. You're going to start 12th. You practice 15th and 17th. You're having a pretty darn good year on Corey LaJoie standards, but your average finish here is 24th and 27.8 out of 10 starts. Don't have a whole lot of interest. Like you said, all season, it's all between the ears. Yeah, it absolutely is all between the ears of Bubba Wallace. He has the talent to be a top-tier driver in this sport. He gets inside of his own head. If he gets rid of that, Bubba Wallace could be potentially even a championship driver. I'll say that. He has that ability and that talent. He just gets in his own way. Todd Gilliland finished 27th in this race last year. This is the problem with Todd. Todd's doing really, really well. Spun in qualifying. He's going to start 36th, but he was 35th in single lap and 27th in 5-lap consecutive average. That's not great. 5,900 for a Penske car. Yeah, 5,900 for a Penske car that hasn't done anything since Daytona of 2021. I mean, I think he's had a handful, not even a handful, of top 5s or top 10s. I mean, Austin Cindric's ride is not in jeopardy, at least at this point, but he's got a year or two, and if he doesn't start turning around, Austin Cindric could be relegated back to the Xfinity Series by his dad, of all people. But Todd Gilliland, I mean, just starting shotgun in the field and having decent equipment, just let the attrition come. At 5,400, I'll take the Todd Gilliland play today. And so will a lot of other people, so just be warned. He will be heavily owned. Cole Custer will probably be decently owned. Driving a Rick Ware car. We've talked a lot about Rick Ware today, or a little bit about Rick Ware today, and where they're headed. I mean, Cole Custer finished 19th in an SHR car here last year, and was having a decent day yesterday till he and John Hunter decided to wreck each other. But that was one of those funky restarts, and that could happen today again, which would help somebody starting in 31st have a decent day. And at 5,200, all I need Cole Custer to do is go potentially sneak out a top 20. Same thing with Todd Gillen. Go sneak me out a top 20, Todd and Cole. Win me some money. I don't have a whole lot of ownership in Cole or Noah starting in 32nd. Man, talk about just can't get out of his own way. Noah Gragson. If it's not himself, it's his pit crew. Or the car setup or whatever. Noah Gragson cannot wait for this season to end. It cannot end fast enough. JJ Yaley, 4,900, starting 28th. This is the problem with JJ. If JJ were starting 32nd, I might have some interest because JJ Yaley's actually finishing pretty well recently. I mean, when I say pretty well, better than he has. So don't think I'm thinking JJ Yaley's the next slice of bread here. But JJ Yaley's outperforming what he has done in the past 2 years, which makes me indicate that Rick Ware is actually trying to turn the corner and make their cars better. Ty Dillon, you've given it a good shot, Ty. I think it's time just to say I need to be an Xfinity driver or a truck driver, or just go work for your dad or your grandpa, and run a race team. Learn how to run Richard Childress Racing, from one of the best in the sport. Because even in good equipment, Ty Dillon just has not been that good. So, hate it for him. But starting 33rd, I will take some ownership today on him. He was lousy in practice, but he finished 24th in this race, starting 33rd at 4,800. This allows you to get a lot of high-priced guys today. And we need that. So I'll take the extra place differential between a JJ Yeley and a Ty Dillon, even though you are not that good. I'm just hoping for some attrition or pitch strategy luck, and Ty Dillon gets close to the top 20. At that price, that's all I need. BJ, if you were starting a few spots further back, I might have some interest. But you've got a 34.3 average finish over 7 and a 32.5 average finish. Nope, no interest. All right, guys that I like to stink up this show, at least in DraftKings world. When I did this first, I put Ross Chastain in here. Don't know if I love the Ross Chastain play as much. So be wary of that, and he will probably be pretty heavily owned. This isn't right. Yeah, that's not right. All right, we're going to skip that. I don't have time to fix it. Let's look at the optimal lineups from last year and the last 4 races at Pocono. 160 laps. The other 3 are not 160 laps. They're shorter laps, but that kind of still gives us the indication that, yeah, dominators are nice, but I mean, we had a dominator last week have 149 points. Kyle Busch, highest point getter from last year's race, was 71, half of the amount of points. So, I mean, Eric Jones coming from 34th, finishing 11th. He did lead a few laps, but, I mean, a Michael McDowell starting 25th, finishing 8th. Cole Custer, 32nd, finishing 19th. So, we're looking for 1 to 2, I'm not even going to call them dominators because we don't really have dominators. I mean, these, you can see the fast laps. They get spread out a little bit. 2 guys that are going to finish top 5. 3 guys that are huge place differentials. Shark says, I was being silly earlier about Kerry and Jeffrey Earnhardt, but how in the world can NASCAR have Earnhardt names and these trash cars just riding around getting laps? Just odd to me. So a great one to listen to is go back and listen to the interview with Jeffrey Earnhardt and Dale Jr. On his Dale download, where he interviews Jeffrey, the most recent one. Jeffrey is doing everything to probably shoot himself in the foot. I understand he wants to make it on his own. I get it. And he doesn't want to be a Ty Dillon. And I get that too. But damn, use your name to get at least some better equipment. I'm not saying go and get a ride with Hendrick or Junior Motorsports or any of those guys. But God, use your name a little bit. I mean, he's too proud is the problem. Jeffrey Earnhardt's too proud to not earn it on his own. Well, this sport, you earn about 30% on your own, and you earn the other 70% with money. This sport is, like most professional sports, is money. It's monies and looks, and can you sell the corporate dollar? And that's just not Jeffrey Earnhardt, and that's why he just won't ever be great at the sport. It's the truth of it. And he's even said it. He goes, he knows that he could go and use his name and get better equipment. He just won't do it. He wants to earn it. I'm props to him for that, but yeah, that's the honest truth comes from Jeffrey Earnhardt's mouth when he sat down with Dale and did the long form interview with Dale. It's a great listen if you go back and listen to it. The Jeffrey Earnhardt interview with Dale. Very eye-opening on why Jeffrey is where he's at. And the same thing would be said about Gary. So good point, but there's a great interview with it. You should go take a listen. If you listen to me ramble on for the hour and a half I've rambled on, then you can go listen to them. They're much more interesting, I promise. But optimal lineups, I mean, now we had only 140 laps, and we had all sorts of weird things with these weird lineups in 2021 or 2020. We didn't have qualifying and weird stuff like that. But, I mean, because you had a Denny Hamlin starting 19th, 38th. But, yeah, I mean, the fast laps didn't come into play. I mean, same thing down here. We did have qualifying in 2021. And, you know, I mean, Kyle Busch coming from 19th to finish first. So we had a 19, 11, a 20, a 16, a 7. So Bubba Wallace started 7th and finished 5th. Okay. Not bad. Good job, Bubba. A Ryan Preece, 23rd to 8th. A lot of it's place differential, and it doesn't have to be deep place differential. It's just good, solid place differential is going to win this thing. Same thing showed up yesterday in the Xfinity race. It was the mid-20s. It wasn't the guys that were starting in the high 30s. It was the mid-20 guys that ended up making the optimal lineup and were doing very well in tournaments. So that's kind of my take. You want to find, it's the gems. You're trying to find let's see. I mean, Bubba Walk at third. Let's see, starting 20th. I mean, Bubba's made the optimal lineup. 1, 2 out of the 4 races, Bubba Wallace has made the optimal lineup. I mean, Suarez 14th to 13th. So, I mean, not a huge place differential there, but just a good, solid finish. This is one of the more harder races to pin down, but I think because you've got a Chase Elliott starting 35th, and you've got maybe even a Ross starting closer to the back, a Kyle Busch with a ton of place differential. That and then just finding that weird Eric Jones who has just a career day and finishes 3rd. It's one of those days. It's going to be a random that it's going to be that diamond in the rough that's going